What's up, everyone? Is it wrong to want characters attractive? Let's get on with it.
And all of this is why I just do not understand why some developers keep getting it wrong. It really feels so simple. Yes, give us great gameplay, fun mechanics, a interesting and meaningful story, but then layer attractive, pretty characters on top of that to create hype around the game, grab our interest, and hold our attention. All of this just makes for a much more enjoyable experience. So this video is
Alright, chat, what do you guys think about that? Because this is a mostly male audience I got right now. Um, what is your thought on that? I actually spoke to one of my peoples I was working with about this, right? Um, about why um attractive character isn't Miku attractive. Okay, yes, I'm talking about generally. How you guys feel about that? Because you know how there's the saying, beauty is subjective, right? There's a saying beauty is subjective, which beauty is subjective, right? However, if like you take a look at visual novels or if you take a look at like games in general, right? You'll see that ones with like the best artwork or the most creative artwork are the ones that get people in the door, right? And I was having a conversation with someone, right? And the reason why this is a hard conversation to have is because it makes you look like an a-hole. It makes you look like an a-hole to have this conversation. And the reason that is because you're told to don't judge someone, don't judge a book by a character. Even though you are literally judging a book, a game by its character, right? When you buy something, you are judging it by what you see initially, right? Now, the thing is though, video games are fantasy. Like, that's the difference. And so I was just like, you have to take that mindset differently when making a video game, unless you're trying to go for a religious approach. So like, yes, you could always do your own thing, but if you're like trying to sell, then you gotta think more of a business perspective type of thing. Just kind of like with YouTube, you gotta figure out what YouTube wants, um, which is what do the people want. And so it's tough because when you're looking at this about the attractive character things, right? It's just like, well, beauty's subjective. Beauty is subjective. However, if you also think of it is like, why does makeup industry or like certain industries perform well is because beauty sells, right? And so if you break it down like sex sells, it's like, what is it about that sells? What is it about certain physiques or attributions that sell? So let's hear
kind of
what you guys
related
think.
to my very first video about women in games, but before we get into it, we have to acknowledge everybody that is subscribed to the channel. Wow, honestly, I don't really even know what to say. This has been such a overwhelming week in the best way, but thank you. Thank you to every single one of you for all of the comments and messages and just all of the support. Now, let's talk about hot characters. I've always found it very interesting when I see some gamers say, I don't care what my character looks like, I just want a good game. And while, sure, I believe some people probably do feel that way, when you actually look around at what's successful and what's not, what resonates and what doesn't, the idea that visuals don't matter, it doesn't really hold up. The second you start digging into
I
this
mean,
stuff, it's pretty clear. Visuals play a
hold
huge
up.
role in
Why does
whether
this not want to
something
stop?
hits or
Stop.
flops.
Stop. Oh my goodness. Being stupid. Okay. So with visual novels, we had a conversation, right? So there's this one thing that people always ask for in a visual novel, right? If you're playing like the POV type of perspective, right? Which is you are the person, right? And you know what that is? Can we get character customization? Now, if we break it down, is that it doesn't matter what my character is, then shouldn't that be? It shouldn't matter what my character looks like because you are supposed to be the character. If we're breaking it down to that, right? If it's supposed to be you are the character, then your character shouldn't matter what you look like, right? And then you can even have it into the mindset of like, let's take a look at Power World, right? And they had it where Power World, you could make your character super goofy looking, and some people want their character to look goofy and whatnot, because it's like, hee hee ha ha funny moment, right? Um, the thing is, it's like there could be a lack of customization, too much customization in a way. It's just like, will this customization in the long run make it so that, like, it hinders the performance of the rest of the game? Or like, take a look at Pokemon's customization in Scarlet and Violet. They gave you so many hair color options or hairstyles, but then they gave you like one option, 1 to 4 options for your actual your actual um outfit, and you're like, why did I get so many options? I can't change my sticking outfit. But then you look at X, Y, and Z, because they did it in the past, or in Pokemon X and Y, you had, at least for the females, you could do all these female options, outfits, and hairstyles. It might not have been as much in terms of hairstyles for um back then, but like it felt more bright than what Scarlet and Violet did. I really do not like Scarlet and Violet.
And if they didn't, cosmetics probably wouldn't be one of the most profitable parts of the entire gaming industry. The truth is, I think most of us do
Also,
care, even if it's
like, take a look at Fortnite, for example. Um, like, what sells the most? The skins. You want to play as a certain character because you like this is the way the character would look, or something like that. So, like, take a look at the makeup industry. Um, and like Selena Gomez, right? She went from being millionaire to billionaire.
subconsciously. And this isn't just a gaming thing, but for whatever reason, the gaming industry seems especially confused about it. Because books, anime, movies, shows, we care about how the characters look. We always have. Now, just to be clear, an attractive character cannot save bad writing or bad gameplay. A great design won't make a boring game fun, and eye candy is totally pointless if there's zero substance to back it up. And on the opposite side, it's not like a game is necessarily doomed if the characters are uninspired or unattractive. But let's be honest, we have been done dirty quite a few times at this point. But when it does work, when you combine great writing, a solid gameplay, and a compelling visual design, that's really when the secret sauce hits, and that's when a character truly becomes iconic.
Take a look at Me Side, right? It's a cute waifu simulator. It has a good story. But the selling point is that it's a yandere waifu character trying to kill you, trying to, do something to you. Um and it would not work if the visual aesthetic of Miside or Mita was not there. Um and think about that too, is that you, the POV character, the MC, you don't get character customization on that character. You get character customization on Mita.
So, how important is beauty really? What can it actually be used for in storytelling, and why does it matter at all? Yes, beauty is completely subjective, but let's try and figure it out together. When it comes to storytelling, beauty isn't just about looking good, it's about what that beauty communicates. It's a kind
Beauty, when it comes to the story, it could symbolize what the character could foreshadow, what it's supposed to represent. It could be a subversion to what the character's supposed to be. Take a look at the whole debate with heroine versus villainess, right? So like, the reason with the whole villainous trope being so popular, right, is because with a villainess, right, the biggest feature was that a villainess always looked like long red or black hair, like a color that was like seen as more evil, right? Red or black, for example, even white, right? In contrast to the heroine, which is usually like a brown hair. We'll say brown, pink hair, or even blonde, right? They would have blue eyes, right? And the villainess always had a certain way of talking. Like, they were more bold in their way of speaking, while the heroine is more innocent and whatnot. However, if you are just looking at the aesthetics of the heroine versus the villainess, the heroine is usually given a more petite stature, while the villainess is given a more mature look, because sometimes sexy is seen as evil. Um, Even when you look at, was it Mother Gothel from Tangle, right? Um, it's like, when you are given certain defining features, is considered inappropriate, evil, and so forth. So, is that always the case? No, but it's how you write the character, and it's like if you see the character, it's like, oh, that's an evil character. Like, think about it in terms of when you look at Kingdom Hearts, right? Xehanort, you're like, that's an evil character. However, in the game, they don't think he's an evil character at first, and we could tell that because bro just looks evil. However, they're not going through that with that lens because they're not judging him with the way he looks. But with us, we're just like, well, those eyes are kind of giving away the way he acts because what we see, the hair, like, bald evil man, like, it's just kind of that giveaway compared to what, let's say if he was more of a, let's say he was a younger person, he had like the hair, his eyes were more of an innocent feature. Like, he gave a more Sojo esque appeal. Then, if he didn't show his characteristics, you would probably be like, oh, he ain't even bad guy until he started putting bad guy features. Like, it's kind of what they even do when it comes to Sojo. Like, you have that male lead, and then you're like, oh, he's so attractive and whatnot. Oh, he ain't gonna do nothing until he does something. You're like, that's a red flag. You're like, oh no, I didn't see that coming. It's like supposed to be like a subversion or a sort.
A visual shorthand for personality, purpose, or the emotional tone of a character. Take Cortana from Halo. She's sleek, luminous, and kind of untouchable. Her ethereal design isn't random, it reinforces her role as an AI. She's attractive, mysterious, highly advanced, but also just slightly out of reach. Or Aerith from Final Fantasy. She's beautiful and
I was gonna talk about Aerith versus Tifa because Aerith has a more heroine look, while Tifa has a more villainous look. If you notice, like, there's always that debate between Tifa and Aerith. If you look down to it, it's because Aerith has the whole heroine person, the heroine look, the personality. Tifa has that personality, but the first impression is like, oh, she's just hot. Like, think of all the people who just be like, dang, smash or pass out. I smashed Tifa. That's literally what people be saying with Tifa compared to Aerith. It's just like, Aerith isn't like that.
in this really soft, gentle way. Her design radiates hope and warmth, and you feel that when she's on screen. There's something very delicate and endearing about her that sticks with you. Then there's Eve from Stellar Blade, and yeah, people definitely noticed her design pretty much immediately. She's bold, striking, and yes, super hot. But what's cool is that once the game launched, the gameplay actually backed it up. And okay, can we talk about Verso from Clair Obscur for a second? Because he is undeniably very handsome. The white hair, the posture, the somber expression, he's restrained, haunted, and you immediately feel like there's something deeper going on. These characters aren't designed to just be pretty, they're designed with intention. Their looks are part of their emotional blueprint, and the fact that they're attractive is what actually initially draws you in. Their looks tell you how to feel before a single line of dialogue. As humans, we are biologically wired to respond to beauty, and that's not a bad thing. So when a character's design feels off, or it doesn't match the story we're being told, that disconnect can make it way harder to emotionally connect. And this kind of
So, one of the biggest things I said is that imagine if you wrote a character, right? You don't want this character to be, um, you want people to like the character, right? But you don't want them to be so downtrodden, right? And one of the things I said is because take a look example at Lookism, if or Lookism, True Beauty, X, Y, and Z, right? But True Beauty, right? So I asked the person, I was like, "Do you think she's ugly?" She's like, "No." I was like, "Why?" This is like because it's just acne, right? I was just like, I was like, okay, so because you could fix acne, right? I was like, what else? It's like, and she has glasses. I was like, what's wrong with glasses? Nothing inherently wrong with glasses. Okay. And then what? Messy bun is greasy hair, right? So what? You could just clean your hair, right? Right. So the things that is considered ugly, right? Because every place has different standards, right? I was just like, notice how all this stuff, quote unquote, to make her quote unquote ugly, is stuff that she could easily get rid of, right? Um, I said, you think if she had acne, greasy hair, was scarred, uh, burn marks, had let's say she was amputated, um, like has everything going against her. Let's just say she has everything going against her, right? She would be still considered conventionally attractive, right? Like think of like so many things. Would people want to still be her, right? That's one of the things. Like, would you still want to be the character? Not would you want to sympathize with the character. Would you still want to be the character? Because think about cosplayers. They want to cosplay the character. Would they want to be the character, right? Um, and she's just like, what? Well, dang. When you put it like that, I was just like, don't think about it in the mindset of how think about with real life. Don't think about it like you would real life people because you're not trying to think about real life people. You are trying to make a fantasy. Unless you're not making a fantasy. But the thing is, a lot of people want the fantasy. Think about it. It's like, do you think people when they want their husbando, do they want them to be like super Chad like or X Y and Z? Like you saw like one of the guys, right? I am not someone with a beard, so that's not gonna draw to me. But like some people like the beards. I like the more clean shaven type of look, right? I was just like, think of something that is you do not like, and that is like the main character. Are you gonna want to date the main character? Like no. And so it's just like that's what it is. It's just like there are like every place has different understands of what they will like and what they don't like. Like right now, people are like going back to Wizards like, oh dang, Max was the hottest sibling X Y Z. It's just like okay, well but it's just like you know um there is you have to actually figure out what makes the character attractive though because even if they do have the look, you have to actually make it a good personality. Unless you're going for a terrible personality, because some people do like a toxic character. And then after that, it's just like, what does these features on this character supposed to represent? Like Todoroki, he has a burn mark because he got burned by his mother because of the incident, right? Same with Zuko. It's just like he was dishonored, so he carries that. It's just like you're sympathetic of the character, but doesn't mean the character is unattractive. And then like Zuko gets that haircut too. So like it's a lot of things that you have to actually think about when writing the character and so forth.
Visual storytelling has been around for ages. This is nothing new, and it's not just in games, it's everywhere, especially in film. Taking a look at Lord of the Rings, think about Aragorn. Rugged, attractive, weathered, and quietly noble. His entire look reflects the burden that he carries, and you can see the weight of his past just by looking at him. Then there's Eowyn and Arwen, two beautiful women with totally different vibes. One is a warrior with conviction, the other is a very soft, ethereal queen. And their looks reflect who they are at their core. And that's what good design does. It supports the story. All right, switching tones completely here, but I have to talk about my love for the Mummy series very quickly. Because Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz weren't just very fun, flirty, iconic characters, they were extremely captivating. Their chemistry was off the charts and they were both ridiculously attractive, okay? But their beauty didn't didn't just decorate the film, it amplified it. The adventure they were on, the romance, the danger. I actually love this series so much. I used to work at the Mummy roller coaster at Universal, and I may or may not have hearing loss in my one ear thanks to Brendan Fraser screaming for his coffee at the end of the ride. Just a little bit of NPC lore for you. So, if we know that beauty helps tell the story, what about when it's entirely in the player's hands? Let's talk about character customization and the literal billions being spent on it. Video game cosmetics are a multi-billion-dollar industry. In fact, media research projects that purely cosmetic in-game purchases will reach 100 billion a year by 2028. Let that sink in for a second. $100 billion a year for making your character look nice. Listen, alright, I am not ashamed that I myself played a part in this pretty recently. I hadn't touched Fortnite in like 7 or 8 years, but I randomly started playing duos again over the last few months, and pretty much right after I did, I saw none other than Spike Spiegel and Faye Valentine in the shop. Yeah, I was buying up those V-Bucks pretty much immediately. It was just the idea of getting to play as some of the characters I love so much in a game that I've unironically been having a ton of fun with.
That's what I'm saying. Is like you get to be the character you want to be, or like you really love. And that's the whole thing about like the attractive. Like you have to disconnect it from reality when you write. And that's what a lot of people do not understand. And it's okay if you want to have a more realistic approach in writing. That's what like certain, that's what you have like actual writing for. And then you have a more realistic writing style and like webtoons with more realistic drawings. But it's also like, why is there shame in drawing attractive characters too? It's just like, but in the approach of like, if you wonder why aren't people you know don't like this style instead, it's just like maybe it's just not what you are trying to sell. So that's just what it is at the end of the day. It's just like, are you trying to sell for a business purpose, or are you trying to sell for your story? Like this is your story, you want the characters to be like this, it doesn't matter. And that's it. That's in it. You don't care about the performance. You just want to get your story out there, right? So it's just like that. Because I was wondering, I was just like, dang, you know what? Why did Naruto do so well? I was just like, is this even good color theory? Like, I was asking artists, and I was just like, is this good color theory? Um, so I think Naruto does kind of work, right? He has the yellow with orange and blue, right? That works. Then Sasuke has white, blue, which is fine, I guess, and black. Those I guess are combined colors, but he doesn't really stand out. And then he has his edgy look with the whole black. So, um, but like when we were thinking about, I was just like, in terms of color theory, though, I was just like, this is really where we're like, I was really trying to figure out color theory. And then when you have Sakura, right? And Sakura, you know what I thought? I was like, and I had to make sure. I was just like, I don't want to say this, but what do you get when you look at Sakura? And a lot of people were like, girl, because her color theme was just girl, because it was pink and red, and then she has the blue. But like it wasn't like Naruto's or Sasuke's or anyone else. She was just pink and red, and then later on you have Tente with blue and pink and whatnot. But like it was just like, because Sakura is like the main female, I was just like, what's so iconic about Sakura besides the pink and the red? Like it's just that, like, it was like the female colors. It's like, and it was like don't get me wrong, those Naruto designs are iconic, but it was just like, when you think about it in terms of like, if they were done today, it's like, would they be as iconic, and why would they be iconic? Like when you actually think about it, it's like, why are they iconic? So yeah.
It's almost like I had no choice here. Quick side note. Faye Valentine definitely goes on our list of amazing female characters, for sure. And I must confess, I've also purchased the Sabrina Carpenter skin. Her dress was just so pretty.
I didn't
Now,
like
on the flip
the
side, the
facial
opposite
hair.
is true too. When character design fails to resonate, players clock it immediately. This is very old news at this point, but I always think about Concord. This was really the first time, at least for me, that I had seen so much public backlash about character design. And for Concord, yeah, it kind of seems like this was one of the biggest reasons that it flopped. People did not like the characters. They felt awkward, uninspired, off-putting, forced. In a market full of games where the character designs are intended to be inherently beautiful, bold, attractive, Concord's cast kind of looked like they were built by a committee just to check boxes. And then there's Starfield. This game was supposed to be massive, story-rich, world-expanding, but on top of just so-so gameplay, the one
So like, first of all, that creeps me out. With Concord, I didn't really understand what I'm supposed to get with those characters. I don't really know what Concord is, so maybe for y'all who do understand what Concord is, you guys could expand on that. But like, okay, I think my brother has The Witcher, right? I'm not a fan of The Witcher, but like, when I take a look at the box of The Witcher and you see the guy with the white hair and the black clothes, I could get a sense that it's an edgy game. That's what I get a sense. It's an edgy game. Dude's edge lord. That's what I get, right? Um, and it has a more of a mature vibe because of like the hairstyle and his facial hair. That's what I get from it. That's what I get. So I didn't really get anything from this. So like, it's like, what vibe do you get when you see these type of games too?
one thing I kept seeing over and over again was how unappealing, bland looking, and emotionally empty the NPCs felt. They didn't draw you in or match the tone of the world. For the most part, they were just generic copy paste that you didn't really want to engage with. Another game that comes to mind that I've mentioned before is Star Wars Outlaws. Unfortunately, both good gameplay and good character design were amiss here. And there were even moments where Kay Vess didn't look quite human, which is very wild because her actress is so stunning. The blueprint was right there,
Ooh,
but for some reason, I guess they couldn't make a character design that did her justice. And the disconnect across all of these examples is important to note because it's not just about realism, it's about relatability. Games are probably the biggest storytelling medium, and a character's design should invite you into the story. People want to feel something when they look at a character: excitement, admiration, curiosity. And when what you're looking at feels flat, awkward, or overly ordinary, like someone you just passed by on the street, it breaks the fantasy. And that desire for your character
And that's what it is. It's breaking the fantasy. That's what I learned the hard way. Is that depending on what your audience or what you want to get, is that you want them to be immersed. You don't want them to feel um like in reality. That's something I learned the hard way because I was making a story, artist choice. We went down a style, and it was like I didn't include all the tropes people wanted because I'm like, I thought you guys didn't want all those tropes. It's a realistic game. It's like, but you want the fantasy. That's what people want at the end of the day. They want the fantasy. They want to not be in reality. The point of playing games for some people is to disconnect from reality. So it's not about like you can't be attractive in real life. That's not what it's about. It's just like you want to see different looks that you might not have seen in real life, or be able to see something that is just like completely not seen in your area possibly.
to look attractive and appealing, it starts even before the actual game begins. Take Baldur's Gate 3 for example. According to Larian, players collectively spent over 8,000 years just in the character creator. That's like 16% of the game's total playtime before even starting the game. And yes, I did.
I'm not gonna lie. When I play Code Vein, right, I only play like 2 hours a game. Most of these games I be playing that has customization, I be spending the majority of it in the customization. This is why I don't like including it in my own games, because I know if I had customizations in my games, I would just be stuck on it. I would just be like, okay, time to add this, time to add this feature and this feature. It's too many features. I'm like, and then I'll be like, oh dang, where do we go from here?
contribute to that. Because to me, character aesthetics are just part of the immersion. They're part of what makes an incredible game. They help me feel more emotionally anchored in the world and make for a way more enjoyable experience. And this goes for both male and female characters alike. Even in Red Dead Redemption 2, I loved getting to change Arthur's hair, his beard, and outfits, and I'm just so glad we got to do that because I really felt like I could reflect where he was at mentally and emotionally. That small touch made him feel
Yeah. Yeah. The conversation goes both ways for males and females. When I talked to the person about this, I said, imagine your your favorite favorite male character you want to romance, because we was talking about what would be your favorite type of love interest for a game, right? And I said, imagine all the traits you would find out attractive, and that was in it. Your favorite type of archetype, but he had all your most undesirable features. Would you still want to date him? And she was just like, oh, I don't know. So it's just like, yeah. So like, you gotta take that into consideration. Like, when you're talking about games, it's okay to be a little more picky because at the end of the day, you're spending your hard-earned money to buy these games to play. So, but like when it's you know reality, you gotta be respectful to individuals. Like, you know, you're not treating game logic the same you are with with real life logic.
a lot more real. Now, switching gears for a quick moment, bear with me here, okay? I'm gonna go ahead and out myself for a second. I love a good romantasy book. Yes, 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 I know, but before you roll your eyes and you click off the video, please just hear me out. This genre includes some of the best-selling books on the market. You maybe have heard of series like Throne of Glass or ACOTAR, and the characters in
I
these
don't read.
stories are described with this enchanted,
Not these
ethereal kind
books.
of beauty. It's dramatic, it's swoony, it's meant to sweep you off your feet, and that's part of the fantasy. It's part of the immersion. There's even one fan favorite image of a certain ACOTAR character that went viral,
Ooh,
and for many fans, that's basically canon now.
bro
Godspeed
was
to
like,
whatever casting director has to find that guy in the real world. They
yeah,
will come for you. The exact same thing happens in
Gojo.
anime and animation, sometimes even more intense.
So yeah, I watched the video. It was like, why did Gojo do so well? It's because he has a Bjojo look, whatever that means. So he was targeted to like so many people, um, especially with his personality. And I'm just like, oh, when you put it into that ways, um, and I could see. I mean, even like you can see the tint on his lip, like I was just like, oh yeah, because I was just like, wait, do any of the other guys have that? From when I saw it, I was just like, because I don't remember Megumi or Itadori having it. I was like, he does have a more be shoulder look, and then I was just like, but then you see him in action, and you're like, oh man, this man go crazy. This man be going crazy.
These characters are designed from the ground up to be visually appealing. Their looks are exaggerated, idealized, sometimes maybe a little too much, but
Mm-hmm.
we love them for it. And there's a reason that certain characters dominate cosplay every con season, or why
Tifa.
fans fight over who's best girl or best boy with genuine passion. Even in the VTuber space, visual design
Oh, I paused at the wrong moment.
is everything. And there's a reason VTubers put so much effort into their appearance, and people can completely fall in love with them before they
She just
ever even
started
hear
getting
their voice.
popular.
The look, the aesthetic, the
Um, so yeah, with VTubers, a lot of people will say it's not about the way the character looks, but at the same time, VTubers will spend $10,000 to $30,000 on their characters. I'm like, what the turd? I'm like, y'all spending money on a whole house, like down payments on a house or a car on a character. I'm like, that's crazy. Like, oh my goodness, you must be getting some good investment back. I'm like, oh my goodness, like because like oh my goodness, I can't imagine spending that much right now. Maybe if I was bigger, I'll be like, I guess I could use an upgrade. But dang, like, what am I need a $30,000 model for? Like, I'm thinking about. I'm really thinking. I'm like, what do I need a $30,000 model for? I really don't know what I would need a $30,000 model for. Like, for real, for real. Like, what? But no, it's because VTubers kind of has an idol type of industry background behind it. So, but like people will be like, it's not about the model, but then at the same time, they will be telling you, oh, your model's not rigged well enough. Oh, your model could use a bit more clothes or X, Y, and Z. There's always gonna be something there.
The vibe, it all is meant to draw people in. The design is the hook. All of this is so important because when a character looks the way they're supposed to feel, that's when the magic happens. That's when people get protective. That's when a fandom really forms. Piggybacking off of all of that, I'd like to touch on something.
I will say this. I do not like the short hair Zelda. I am not a fan of short hair Zelda. I'm so mad at short hair Zelda. Also, yeah, the character design is also supposed to represent like the personality of the character or be a subversion to the character.
Very quickly that gets brought up a lot in conversations like this. And that's the idea that it's just gamers that are the ones who care way too much about a character's appearance. That it's just gamers who have this problem. Like the second someone doesn't like a design, it's suddenly gamers are just toxic and you just need to get over it. But based on everything that I've said thus far, honestly, I do not think that's fair because this is a thing across every genre, every medium. Everybody wants well-designed, fun, good-looking, beautiful, charismatic characters. It's how we're wired.
I mean, even if you take it outside of gaming, and let's just say you do it with art. With art, you would be like, oh, like you would pay for more art or a certain type of art if it was a certain style, right? Or you will watch an anime if it was gorgeous, like Demon Slayer, for example, right? A lot of people gas up the anime because of the way it looks, and some people will be like, "Oh, Yu Yu Hakusho doesn't need to be remade because it's already perfect the way it is." Um, you could say that about anime, you could say that about art, you could say that about certain things related to anything that has to do with this type of stuff in general. You're gonna have this debate. So
And it's why certain characters instantly spark hype online or can aid in tanking a release before it's even out of the oven. Yes, I'm looking at you, Intergalactic. Now, again, I am not saying every character in a game needs to look like a supermodel, but what I am so tired of seeing is characters intentionally designed to be less appealing. When the people making the decisions nerf a character's looks in a way that has nothing to do with their actual background or story, they just do it just because, it really makes no sense. It creates unnecessary dissonance and it pulls people out of the fantasy instead of drawing them in. My last note on this here is just think about celebrities. Think about how people respond to celebrities, whether they're singers or actors.
yeah, I was gonna say that. I didn't want to say it, but then I was just like, I mean, if you think about it, think about the people who do movies and whatnot. Um, and think if they're considered eventually attractive or not, or if they're not considered attractive, what roles they're typecast in. And even think about how people will react if they do something. Um, I remember seeing a celebrity apparently did some kind of commercial. They called men pigs, had them be shown as pigs, or they refer to men as pigs. I don't remember the whole context. It's not that big of a deal to me, right? And a lot of people are defending the 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 actor or whatever because they're just like, oh, they're so pretty, X, Y, and Z. It's just like, well, what do you want it to do about it? It's like it don't matter because it's part of the celebrity sphere. So it's just like, I mean, to me the commercial is like rage bait to begin with. So, but like when you see a show, the whole point, like let's say the most attractive guy on campus, like what they're gonna attract someone or typecast someone who's not supposed to be attractive, like it's just stuff that's supposed to be part of the plot or whatever. And this
How they look, their appearance is always part of the conversation. And so many times you could easily say it even contributes to their success. Even when it technically has nothing to do with what they're known for, it somehow
oh my goodness,
still does. Because that's
the live action Snow White. Everyone knows what I was talking about, bruh. Like they hated Snow White so bad they kept coming after the actress because of her opinions and right now. But then they started attacking her for the looks, and it's just like that has nothing to do with her opinions. And so like It's
Just how humans respond to other humans. We're made that way. We notice, we connect, we feel, and what we see at the first glance is the very first step of that. So, of course, while beauty is not everything, and it's certainly not a substitute for good writing, gameplay, or mechanics, it's so often our very first impression, and usually it's the first thing that really captures our attention, lets us know what a character is about, and makes us care. And this is something that has always mattered and will always matter, regardless of the medium being used to tell the story. And all of this is why I just do not understand why some developers keep getting it wrong. It really feels so simple. Yes, give us great gameplay, fun mechanics, a interesting and meaningful story, but then layer attractive, pretty characters on top of that to create hype around the game, grab our interest, and hold our attention. All of this just makes for a much more enjoyable experience. For developers who are passionate about the projects that they're making, and they're doing it for the right reasons, odds are this is probably already all included. So it really is a guaranteed formula for success. And they're shooting themselves in the foot if the very first thing that we see is a bland, boring, or just unappealing protagonist or cast of characters. Sorry for the outfit jump scare. This is editor NPC here, and I was watching this back through and wanted to make sure I just clarified this point really well at the end. All right, I'll see myself out. Okay, thank you so much to those who made it to the end of this video. I'm genuinely so glad that you were here. Like I said at the start, this past week has been a bit of a whirlwind. I just want to say I appreciate everyone and your support so much. I still really can't wrap my head around everything that's happening, but I'm just gonna be here doing my thing like I was already planning to do. So thank you again for being a part of this YouTube journey with me.
Alright, so there you have it. More of the story. This is why Prompto from Final Fantasy 15 is Best Boy. And why you guys should follow me. You guys take care.